Thingkho Le Malcha, by KSO Media and Documentation Cell, issue number 54, Saturday, 4 November, 2023. Headlines. Kotiyu, Biren Singh is the architect of destroying mini-India Manipur. Kuki people observe 6th month of Meitei atrocities in national capital. Arrested persons in more are innocent civilians, says UKLF. UNLF cadre nabbed along Indo-Myanmar border, arms and ammo recovered. Meitei atrocity, torturing of David Marr's final moment surfaced again. Arambai Tengal takes over law and order in Manipur, roams freely with sophisticated weapons. Insane Meitei's itinerary to annihilate Kukis gain momentum, Kukis to fight back with all their might. India's northeastern Manipur marks 6 months of deadly conflict. Thingkho Le Malcha, Relief Center Update. Shanghai Relief Center, Shanghai Village, Ukral Subdivision, Ukral District. Managed by Kuki Students Organization Ukral District. Total inmates registered, 64. Male, 31. Female, 33. Kuki victims update as on October 16, 2023. Deaths, 146. Villages burnt, 200 plus. Houses burnt, 7,000 plus. Churches and synagogues burnt, 360. Displaced persons, 41,425. Kotiyu, Biren Singh is the architect of destroying mini-India Manipur. The Committee on Tribal Unity, or Kotiyu Sadar Hills Kangpokpi accused Chief Minister N. Biren Singh as architect of the wide-scale Manipur's mayhem which sees no sight of ending the unrest even after a complete 6 months. Manipur violence marked a complete 6 months on November 3 with the Indo-Myanmar border town More and the state capital Imphal in the spotlight with incidents of killing, allegation of insurgents disguised as state forces triggering another wave of violence in the border town, and its adjoining areas and the recent looting of arms and ammunition in the capital city Imphal. The Kuki people observed the 6th Remembrance Day in all the Kuki-dominated areas paying tribute to the martyrs of Kuki in the ongoing alleged Meitei atrocities. In Kangpokpi district, the 6th Remembrance Day was observed at Kangpokpi town, Keithalmanbi, Saparmina, Motbung, Kotlan, Limakong and Cycle under the aegis of Kotiyu. Candlelight vigil, motivational speech for the internally displaced persons, village volunteers, mass prayers, etc. marked the occasion. Speaking on the sideline of the event, Kotiyu's chairman, then Glenn Kip-Jen, who is also the finance secretary of the Zo United, accused the incumbent chief minister of Manipur N. Biren Singh as the architect of the ongoing wide-scale Manipur mayhem. He said that as we look back at the history of Manipur, there are many chief ministers who came and gone, and the diverse communities in the state live together peacefully, which is why the state of Manipur has been popularly known as the mini-India. He continued that, however, when N. Biren Singh came into power and became the chief minister of Manipur, he birthed hatred amongst the peacefully coexisting diverse communities and finally made the mini-India state a hotbed of hatred, violence, and atrocities, disintegrating the hard-earned unity, love, and bonding of the diverse communities. The Kotiyu's chairman also said that like-minded individuals, intellectuals and well-wisers from the Meitei community are never happy with the mayhem as they also find N. Biren Singh as the architect of the mayhem and they considered he should not conduct the violence in such gravity. Responding to a query as to how the unrest in the state could see a sight of ending, the Kotiyu chairman said that the Kuki people have completely no faith and confidence in the state government, so the center government is now the only authority who could bring an end to this unceasing unrest in the state. Meanwhile, the 48-hour total shutdown of KSO General Headquarters and the Kotiyu culminated at 6 a.m. on November 4 with no reports of any untoward incidents. However, with the continued deployment of state forces in border town More and reports of various atrocities committed by the state police commandos on innocent villagers, the Kuki tribal bodies are likely to take its further course of action, which is expected to disclose very soon. Kuki people observe 6th month of Meitei atrocities in national capital. The Kuki Delhites on Friday observed the 6th month of the Meitei atrocities on the Kukis of Manipur at Jantar Mantar, New Delhi. The sit-in observance marked various peaceful demonstrations. Visual representations like the Tiranga in their hands and Unity t-shirt emblazoned with captivating slogans, traditional scarves or mufflers tied around the head or neck are also in sight. Besides these, powerful speeches and slogans are delivered by eminent leaders and human rights activists. The Delhi joint artistes enthralled the audience with the We Feeling Igam Hilahem, a song composed by late L.S. Mainboy Lungdam. The peaceful sit-in protest is jointly organized by Joint Unnao Delhi Tribal Students Forum, Delhi, Kuki Women's Forum, Delhi, and Unnao Tribal Women's Forum, Delhi. During the protest, Glady Vaifei shared her grief for those unburied Kuki martyrs. Their mortal remains left to rot in the morgues of Imphal are not unclaimed, but what we cannot claim due to the egregious geographical and demographic separation of the two belligerent communities. She has even gone further in sloganeering that, I am Kuki, I am Kukizo and, I am not a terrorist to dispel the obnoxious media framing tactics of the Meiteis against Kukis as narco-terrorists. P. Shangloy, Langsam, Information CC, of Kuki Inpi, put out his take on what human rights is in a generic sense of the term. For the convener of the sit-in protest, the Meitei atrocity on Kukis is more gross and merits more attention than any other, because ours is about violation of human rights in its ugliest form. Mr. Shangloy has been miffed at the center-laid helicopter schedule, the service of which is mandatory to stopover at Impal and then only proceeds to Lamka. Vishwajit Singh, a Delhi-based advocate, is much aware of the socio-political fault lines of the state of Manipur. He shared his solidarity with the Kuki people of Moor who are currently being subjected to state-sponsored atrocities in the garb of combing operations by the state police commandos. He is such a lawyer who has always been opposed to the majoritarian, integrationist politics of the region. Suhas Chakma, director of the Rights and Risks Analysis Group, has called the crisis as riots. Riots don't last more than 2 weeks, but the crisis in Manipur is so unique in that it has been stretched out to over 6 months now, he said. Chakma chalked out a way where provisions for the riot-induced internally displaced peoples of the Kukis could avail of. You cannot fight with empty stomach. Government has a scheme under which the IDPs, affected by border crisis or left-wing extremism, LWE, or anything of that sort are provisioned. The Kuki people should also explore it and avail the packages for those 50,000 displaced Kuki people, he said. The Human Rights Director also made a suggestion to replace the term separate administration. He instead pitched for devolution of powers. To illustrate his stance, he gave China as an example where one could find elements of separate administration in provinces like Macau, Hong Kong, etc. Separation is what he is abhorrent to. Responsive slogans were put forth, such as Manipur government stop attacking more, 6 months where is justice, we seek justice by an organizer member. Mr. John Dayal, human rights and Christian political activist, also stood up in support of the protest against institutionalized human rights violations in Manipur. Sholet Lungdam, Kumpapa of Kuki Inpi, made a brief introduction on the traditional institution called Kuki Inpi. Lungdam exuded his confidence in the center as we have been part of the struggles for India's independence. He made a fervent request that Kukis in Delhi should not divide further on any artificial lines, and expressed his desire to see the diaspora to stand united, which otherwise they will fall. Hoikim Gungate began her speech with a responsive slogan, Long live Kukizo. She inquired upon the state and center of what exactly is meant by immigration. She has even mocked at the state CM Biren of not knowing what exactly the prefix honorable means in Honorable Chief Minister. She has mooted over meeting the Prime Minister of this great nation called India. She has laid bare about her dissatisfaction in meeting the Union Home Minister, for he has failed and fooled the Kukis enough times this far. Most importantly, the crowd has shown its joy and excitement in the presence of the famed Arijit #Kuki_zo. Being together is what would take us to victory, said Arijit. Discrete nomenclatures such as Kuki, Mizo, Zomi, Mar, and whatnot, would take us nowhere. Togetherness is need of the hour, he said. In the words of Dr. Maya John, a women activist, Meiteis are being made the face of the center. The center is merely having corporate interests in the hills and Meiteis will never come and stay in the hills. Aish Ghosh, president of JNU Students' Union, NUSU, deliberated on the looting of state armory by the Meitei militia like Arambai Tengal and Meitei Li Pun. He promised the audience that he will be organizing another event on November 5 to have a threadbare discussion on the issue of armory lootings. He even asked every concerned Indians to participate in the event on this coming Sunday at 10 a.m. at the same venue. He concluded his speech with slogans, Peace in Manipur, Peace in India, Peace in Gaza, and Peace in the world. The congregation rise up in reverence of the departed souls, followed by singing of the national anthem. The protest concluded peacefully with a benediction prayer from Reverend Tongminthang Haokip, pastor, Kuki Worship Service Delhi, KWSD. First published by the Hills Journal. Arrested persons in Moor are innocent civilians, says UKLF. United Kuki Liberation Front, UKLF, has clarified that none of its cadres had been arrested even though a few media reports stated that some cadres were arrested in a combing operation by police commandos. In a statement on Saturday, UKLF stated that none of the arrested individuals are cadres of the front and all those who were arrested have no relation with the organization. The arrested persons are in fact innocent civilians who live a difficult life by earning from day laborer, it said. The organization also stated that they have no involvement in the present crisis, and cautioned the state forces to stop torturing innocent civilians of Moor Hill Town and stop tarnishing the image of the organization when the cadres are constantly in the designation camp following Sioux ground rules. UNLF cadre nabbed along Indo-Myanmar border, arms and ammo recovered. An active cadre of the proscribed United National Liberation Front, UNLF Pambiai Group, was apprehended in an operation carried out along the Indo-Myanmar border in the Manipur sector during the past 24 hours, a defense wing statement said on Saturday. In a follow-up action by law enforcement, special operations were also conducted at different locations, and security forces recovered 3 AK rifles and 1 tear gas gun from Impal West District. acting on specific intelligence regarding the presence of the cadres of the banned UNLFP in the general area in Manipur's Kasong village in Kamjong district bordering Myanmar on the east. Security forces launched an operation and successfully apprehended one active cadre of UNLF, Pambay. The apprehended individual has been handed over to Kasim Kulin police station for further investigation. The arrested cadre has been handed over to the concerned police station for proper legal actions, the statement added. Meitei atrocity, torturing of David Marr's final moment surfaced again. A video footage of the final moment of David Marr just before he was barbarically killed and beheaded by the Meiteis surfaced again on social media. A social media user named BZNowSNGH, from a Meitei community, had posted the video clip in his Facebook account on Friday, just to be taken down later. However, the video went viral with backlash from all right-thinking people around the world. It was deeply disturbing to see how the last glimpse of David Marr's agonizing video came out in public platform after six months of the ethnic cleansing pogrom. The video showed that he was held captive by the Meitei radicals Arambai Tengal Amd Meitei Lipun hooligans, while he was still alive, unaware that he would be tortured inhumanely till death. Seeing the visual footage, one cannot fathom the fear and terror he would have undergone while we was held captive, interrogated and slapped as if he was a criminal. His only fault line was just his ethnicity because he belongs to Mar tribe, one of the Kuki communities whom the Meiteis tried to annihilate from the soil of Manipur. It was shameful that such hatred could exist. The deep hatred executed and manifested into many unthinkable crimes of the highest degree. David, a 30-year-old man, became one of the countless victims of Meitei atrocities, a tragic consequence of the ethnic conflict between the Meiteis and the Kuki that has plagued the northeastern state since May 3. David Thik grew up in Langsa village, Churachandpur district. The older of two siblings, David's mother died when he was 6. His friends describe him as a passionate footballer who played in various village tournaments. After finishing class 12 in school, he left for Mumbai, where he purportedly worked at a restaurant. When the pandemic hit in 2020, David returned home to Langsa to take care of his disabled father. He had been home ever since. He was planning to return to Mumbai, but ethnic violence erupted in Manipur on May 3. 2 months later, he was brutally murdered in his own beloved village on July 2, 2023 by the Meitei terrorists. They tied his neck with a rope and dragged him to a field near a playground. They tortured him by gouging out his right eye and then cut off his right arm, asking, "Do you want the other arm?" Then they chopped off his left arm as well. Instead of finishing him off with guns, they tortured him further. As if they hadn't had enough of the torture, they then cut off his legs as well. After they dismembered David's body into several pieces, the severed head was placed on the wooden fence outside his house. The aftermath, the criminals ransacked his home and set it ablaze. Fearing for their lives, the village's inhabitants fled to the forest for safety. The assailants proceeded to set fire to the entire village, reducing everyone's homes to ashes. David's remains were also severely burned. Conclusion: humanity in Manipur can no longer thrive without the Kuki being given a total separation from Meitei's Kangli Pak. The minority citizens of India in Manipur rightfully deserve to live separately within India constitution for their safety and security. Notbali, the key accused in beheading David Marr, Marambam Romesh Mungang, pro of Kumbi MLA Shanti Kumar, still walks free. Arambai Tengal takes over law and order in Manipur, roams freely with sophisticated weapons. A video of Arambai Tengal's CNC Mr. Korangamba Kuman surfaced on social media through his Facebook account where he along with his associates can be seen flaunting their sophisticated weapons and in full tactical dress. In the video, Mr. Kuman is seen in the middle of delivering a powerful speech aimed at a certain individual within the Meitei community while also calling for war against the Kuki community. Mr. Kuman reiterated that political solution called out by certain sections of the Meitei populace is nonsensical. "We should not be shouting for peace, it is the Kuki community who should be begging the Meitei for peace," he said, aiming at a certain Meitei individual. Mr. Kuman said the Arambai Tengal is not a credulous organization to be courted with money and the individual must stop talking about peace but rather deliver sophisticated weapons to the at. Calling for the use of weapons in their dealings with the Kuki community. Let us see what happens to the Kukis if each and every one of us have a weapon in hand. What happens if we send 10,000 combatants to Churachandpur and another 10,000 to Kangpokpi? Will they not run? He asked, eliciting a loud response of approval from the radicalized youths. He also reminded his associates on how they are left out to die while some people are protecting their children using bulletproof vehicles which he said should be taken from them by brute force to be used in their quest to carry out attacks in the Kuki areas. He also threatened to bring the children of some individuals to the front lines during firing incidents. The silence of both the central and state government on such matters is truly appalling. What has Manipur become? Government reports suggest the deputation of huge number of central forces personnel in the Impal Valley, and yet instances like this wherein radical elements are seen in public places dressed in tactical attire and openly flaunting their looted sophisticated weapons without fear of any legal action or penalty. This could only be possible with the backing of a higher authority. The CMO and the titular king comes to mind in this regard. The Central Forces, though enough in strength to handle the situation, has its hand behind its back. The state forces in many instances are seen working in tandem with such radical elements. There is absolute failure of law and order in the Death Valley of Imphal. The deputation of Security Advisor Shri Kuldeep Singh and thousands of security personnel remains futile to this day, with the AT and ML radicals carrying out arbitrary missions of attacking any Kuki-Zo areas at their convenience. The open and active calls, instigating violence against the Kuki-Zo community, continues even to this day into the 7th month of the conflict. The Central Authority has put its body and soul towards the states with impending election. The lives of minority communities, their properties and their rights enshrined in the lengthiest constitution of the world couldn't yet be protected by a government boasting of the second largest standing army in the world. Any and all aspects of reconciliation with the Métis community is granting ourselves a death sentence, and thus our demand for separate administration stands firm. Insane Métis itinerary to annihilate Kukis gain momentum, Kukis to fight back with all their might. In a discussion hour talk show on October 29, 2023 by Imphal-based media channel ISTV on the question, will the conflict end if Kukis stop attacking, host Mr. Mingbum Samorjit Métis and his panelists Mr. Kwarakpam Robin and Mr. Lashram Mita discussed on various issues regarding the ongoing conflict in Manipur. The host Sanajaba, a reporter of the news outlet, posed the question to Mr. Robin, an Arambai Tangle leader, and also inquired as to the circumstances where the conflict would see its end. The question in itself is antithetical. The fact of the matter is, the Kuki community to this day have been the defenders of their own lives and villages, as opposed to the claims made by the panelists and proven by the fact that there has been no report of Métis deaths within the towns of Lamka, Kongue and other Kuki-Zo-dominated areas, while hundreds of our brethren are killed, raped, dismembered and burnt, and properties worth tens of crores are looted from Kuki-Zo residences in the Imphal Valley. There are instances like the beheading and dismembering of David Thik at Langza, his own village. Each and every attack has been initiated and carried out by the majority Métis community upon instigation by certain individuals like the self-styled CNC of Arambai Tangle Mr. Korangamba Kuman, the Métis Lipun Chief Pramit Singh, the state CM Biren Singh and the patron of Arambai Tangle, Maharaja Sanajaba Laishemba. This war is started by the Kukis, all attacks are carried out by the Kukis. All the Métis do is defend our Kangli and our people. We have not done any offensive action till now, said Mr. Robin. And the solution for any war is a political dialogue, he added. It should be noted that almost, if not all, of Métis deaths occurred at buffer zones which separate the two communities geographically, separation being by their own acts. The claim that they are village volunteers and defenders seems a little too convenient given how residents from Imphal and surrounding areas ended up getting killed in retaliatory fire at places along the buffer zones, far away from their own localities. This is enough for any neutral and right-thinking mind to understand who the real attackers are. Robin also emphasized on the Kuki-Zo community's demand for a separate administration supported by all 10 MLAs from the community, saying that such demands came up recently but the plan has been in place for a fairly long time. He went on to say that the war will not end yet. Separate administration is the only solution, they say, then unbreakable integrity is the only solution for Métis. Robin seems to be ignorant of the reasons why the demand for such separation came up amongst the Kuki-Zo. It must be remembered that during the initial days, after instigating violence at Torbung village in Lamka district, the majority Métis in Imphal Valley responded to a fake news of rape and murder and began to kill, rape, burn and chase away each and every Kuki-Zo. They looted and burned houses and properties of the Kuki-Zo community residing in the capital city. The manner of the exodus, the violence and atrocities meted out to the tribals clearly shows no sign of reconciliation in the near future. There is an evident threat of life and property in mingling with the Métis community, which only leaves the Kuki-Zo with one option, which is separate administration. This demand is not a choice but rather a necessity for the survival of the community. Métis has not begun to wage war yet, we are still preparing and we will surely wage war, he added, which then raises the questions, who are these people who have incessantly attacked the tribal lands beyond the 700 sq.km Kangli Pak? How much more atrocities, after rape, burning, looting, killing, beheading and dismembering amongst others, do the Métis community plan to commit on the Kuki-Zo community? What is the government's plan of action on such threats of war in an open and public discussion platform? Disregarding and belittling the call for peace and solution through political talks by a section of the Métis community, social activist Mr. Lashram Romesh, also willfully ignorant, claimed that the war was started by the Kuki-Zo community. Their demand for separate administration has not been withdrawn yet. Even with presence of a government, we have not been able to reach more. We cannot administer Churachandpur and Kangpokpi. National highways are constantly blocked. So the war is not over, the war rather has not begun, Romesh said. He also went further to say that the war could have ended by the next day itself had they made better security arrangements. Our enemy this time is not just the Kukis, he added, referring to the Central Security Forces as other elements amongst their enemy and mildly accusing a collusion of Central Forces with the Kuki-Zo community. Mr. Lashram here intentionally ignored the fact that it is the Meitei volunteers who traveled the length and breadth of 700 sq.km Kangleipak to administer a reign of terror and violence wherever they set foot on, from Gamjafai in the north to Torbung in the south, more in the east to Yiri in the west. Mr. Robin, commander of Arambai Tengal, Sekmai unit, also a panelist of the discussion, clearly mentioned his involvement in each and every firing incident within the state. We have been to each and every place where firing has occurred. I was there on the first day at Torbung. Now, why is a local of Sekmai present at a place some 50 to 60 kilometers away on May 3rd, unless he knew what was to happen? Can it then be concluded that they have always been the attacker in contrast to their claim of being a village defense volunteer? Denying the claim of CM Biren over the return of peace and normalcy in Manipur and his appeal to the public to celebrate festivals like Ningal Chakuba etc., Romesh said, for peace to come in Manipur, Kuki militants must withdraw their demand for separate administration, or for us to have full control over administration of every district, and for us to be able to settle in Churachandpur and Kangpokpi. Only then can we say there is peace and normalcy. Until then we will not surrender our weapons and will not stop preparing for war. The majority Meitei community are not willing to part with their looted weapons. They still aim to control all of the state, control all administrative machineries, claim all tribal lands and expect a total submission of Kuki-zo community to their whims and fancies, which any human including themselves will not be ready for. It also hinders any and all process of peaceful solution in the near future and pose a constant threat of war and violence to the tribal groups. Manipur is a beautiful place. You need to go through Manipur and more to reach the Southeast Asian countries, and the mainland Indians wants to take it away from us, so they are now using these tribal, foolish and dog-like creatures called the Kukis to first snatch our land from us. Later on they can easily take it over from these fools and create a Mayangpur, Mayang, a derogatory term for non-Manipuri Hindus settling within the state, said Mr. Robin, who believes that this conflict is part of a rather grander scheme of mainland Hindus. Speaking further he said, it's not the Kukis I'm scared of, it's for the future generation when we'd be taken over by the mainland Mayangs. Kukis are nothing. Stay away from Kuki area dear Assam Rifles and Indian Army, don't raise arms against us and I will finish the Kukis in a week. Here, the Meitei mindset for total annihilation of the Kukis from the soil of Manipur is clearly evident. He expressed the whole insane Meitei's desires, from top to bottom under the leadership of Biren Singh and their titular king Sanajaba, to cleanse Kukis ethnically. However, the Arambai leader should not forget the common lock incident where vast number of their comrades perished in the absence of center security forces. The war will not end, however long it may take, until Kukis withdraw their demand for separate administration, and it should be the aim of every Meitei to chase all Kukis from Manipur to their origin. And further, if the Kukis are willing to apologize for everything that has happened and beg us to go back to the good days of peace, only then will we think of discussing the matter of peace, and there is no other solution, is the conclusion the panelist came to. Playing the blame game, altering facts and figures, distorting the chronology of events and putting up one-sided stories, accusing the other party of each and every act committed, changing narratives as per their communal motives demand, calling out names and labeling a whole community as narco-terrorists, illegal immigrants, etc., suiting their narrative, instigating hatred for a certain community into the minds of the innocent and third-party neutrals to legitimize the ethnic cleansing. Pogrom, to brainwash every Meitei mind into believing their lies and deceit to garner support for what they are still preparing for, a war against the Kuki-zo community, is what they capitalize upon in the present scenario. In any case, the Kuki-zo community would not be backed down but to fight back till separate administration is achieved. India's northeastern Manipur marks 6 months of deadly conflict. The northeastern Indian state of Manipur on Friday marks exactly 6 months since the eruption of ethnic conflict, with the population still bitterly divided, lives and educations disrupted, and no resolution in sight. This week brought fresh bouts of violence, including the shooting death of a police officer from the Meitei community on Tuesday, deepening the standoff between the Kukizos and Meiteis along with the state government led by the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. Since the onset of the crisis on May 3, there has been a complete separation between Kuki-zo areas in the hills and the Meitei-dominated valley. Kuki-zo people were flushed out of the capital Imphal and into the hills, while Meitei streamed from the hills into Imphal. The conflict originally broke out after a rally by the Kuki-zo and Naga tribal groups, who were protesting a court order to grant scheduled tribe status to Meiteis. This would allow the Meiteis, who make up about half the state's population, to purchase land in the hills reserved for scheduled tribes under India's constitution and receive other affirmative action benefits. Estimates of the death toll vary, but over 180 people have been reported killed. Some of those who died as far back as May are still lying in government mortuaries. The persistent tensions remain a dark cloud over the election-bound BJP central government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who back in August had pledged that the sun of peace would soon rise in Manipur. The BJP Chief Minister of Manipur N. Biren Singh, accused by critics of failing to contain the violence and even perpetuating it, has not visited the hills since May 3, underscoring the deep rift in the state. Singh claims the strife was caused by foreign entities fomenting militancy in Manipur. After the police officer was killed in the border town of Moor on Tuesday, a statement by the Manipur police blamed armed Kuki miscreants. Local leaders, meanwhile, demanded the removal of Meitei police officers from the Hill district, citing fears of police excesses. Wednesday brought more chaos, with civilians in Impal reportedly breaking into a military armory and looting arms, while central forces were confronted by armed Meitei mobs. A Section 144 curfew was imposed in the city. Beyond the sporadic violence, some of the most affected but often forgotten victims are children and teenagers, who have had their lives upended. During the initial months of violence, even schools were burned in arson attacks. The charred remains of the buildings stand as monuments to disrupted futures and friendships lost. A government school in the village of Songlung in Kangchup, where Kukizo lived, was torched in May. On one of the remaining walls, "Long Live Manipur" is written with chalk. The village is cordoned off and empty, and central forces patrol its entrances, considering its proximity to the closest Meitei village. In another partially burned school a few kilometers away, the walls that are still standing are riddled with bullet holes. Across in Cycle in the Kingpokpi district, at a relief camp, a mother comforted her 15-year-old daughter who used to study at Little Flower School in Impal but was forced to flee. "I miss my Meitei friends, I want to go back to my school," she said between tears. She had studied there since first grade. The family lost their village, which was burned down in June. Sanjit Singh, 36, used to work at Children's Treasure High School in the Torbung area of Churachandpur, which was burned in August. His 3 children aged 5, 9 and 11 studied at the school. On the night of May 3, the family fled after Torbung witnessed widespread clashes. They have been living at a relief camp since. Sanjit does not have a job. The children are now enrolled in a government school near the camp. "They were sincere students, but here, they are no longer interested to study," he lamented, stressing how hard it is for fearful children to learn in an unfamiliar, cramped relief camp housing more than 250 people. On the other hand, the Jehovah Jireh English School in Bishnupur has been spared from the flames. But it was closed for 4 months due to its location in a buffer zone areas between the valley and hills which are patrolled by central forces. The vicinity of the school saw many gunfights, some lasting weeks at a time. Students from both communities used to be enrolled, but now the school is down to half its strength, and many pupils have lost interest, according to Naocha Singh, the founder. "Bridges have been burned, and it is only education that can build it back, not guns," Singh said. Young Kukizo athletes are struggling to stick with their training. Mila Dongel, a student at the Mary Kom Boxing Institute in Impal, said she fled in May without even grabbing her equipment. 6 months later, she is yet to find a place to practice. "I've applied to academies outside Manipur, I hope I get accepted," she said. Soccer players Ngamga Mate, Vumlalal Hengshing and Levis Haokip are in a similar boat. They were part of the Indian team that won the South Asian Under-16 championship in September. They used to train at one of the top football academies in Impal, but due to the conflict, they can no longer access the capital city and, therefore, the state's best sports facilities. Still determined to become professional players, they are pursuing options outside Manipur. Not everyone has the luxury of leaving, but many of those who can are seeking fresh starts elsewhere. The school where Hatlalbiak Vaifei studied and later became headmistress was destroyed, along with her village. She took refuge in a camp for 2 months before moving to Delhi to find work. She says she accepts that she cannot restore her school, whose students are now spread across relief camps. "Neither do we have our land or resources to do anything about it," she said. First published by Nikkei Asia.